Yes, I am. How are you? Fine.
Good. Still in Atlanta?
I don't blame you guys. It's been a long 72 hours, hasn't it?
You know, I don't think you can take on this task and ever think that it's going to be easy. And I think if you choose to do it, complaining about how hard it is completely out of line.
I agree with you. You got the #1 job in the world. Unbelievable.
And I think, honestly, traveling around this country and talking to Americans is probably my favorite thing. Literally my favorite thing. So I'm never going to complain about that.
So when talking to Americans, what are you finding? What's their mood?
Well, you got to realize I've been doing this full time for 7 years. And I've been doing town halls for impeachment for over 2 years before I started running for president. I think people are basically scared. I think the people who come to impeachment town halls, the people who come to hear me speak, don't like what's going on in this country, don't like Mr. Trump at all, feel like there is a real threat to justice and democracy in this country, and there is. Feel like we have to take back the government and stand up for people and save the climate. And so I think people are very, very worried about losing everything they cared the most about and everything they hope for, honestly.
So what are you telling them that you're actually going to focus on if elected president?
Well, what I'm saying, first of all, is that we have a broken government, that it's been purchased by corporations, that we're going to have to take it back, but that I have a 10-year-long history of organizing coalitions of ordinary citizens to stand up for their rights and beat unchecked corporate power. So I'm saying, first of all, I know we all want these progressive policies. We want affordable health care as a right, quality public education, starting with pre-K and going all the way, a living wage so that one job should be enough, clean air and clean water as a right. Nobody gets to poison you and your families in order to make money. Fair voting. Everybody wants that. But if we're going to get that stuff, we're going to have to take back government from the corporations. And I have a history of beating corporations. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. If we can take back the government, we're going to get all the progressive policies that I believe are rights of Americans in the 21st century. I have also said that on day one, I will declare an emergency on climate because we have to. But I will use it as a way to create millions of quality, union, well-paid jobs across this country, because we're going to have to rebuild this country on an accelerated basis. But I will also make sure that we use it as a way of cleaning up the air and water in low-income Black and brown communities where this society has chosen to concentrate its pollution, and that we will take leadership from those communities in designing climate policies and design and execution of those policies. Because if we actually call my climate program a justice-based climate plan, because for over a decade as I've worked on climate, I've always led with the ideas and people from those communities, because I believe unless it's justice-based, it shouldn't happen, and unless it's justice-based, it won't happen. So I'm talking about also, making sure that we have a growing, prosperous America. And as someone who built a business over 30 years, I think I'm uniquely qualified to understand what makes for prosperity. We need to share the money completely differently. We need to use the money completely differently. But we need to make sure that we keep growing and prospering as a nation so that we can all share in it together.
Do you know any quality of other survey areas? What has changed has changed over the last 40 to 50 years? What kind of industries and what kind of thought as far as industries and solutions to those individuals are you looking at?
Well, let me say that rebuilding America on an accelerated basis goes everywhere and will literally create millions of jobs, good-paying union jobs. But the other thing that I think you should know, James, is, and I don't know if you do, is that my wife and I started a community bank over 14 years ago. And it's a mission-driven bank driven by the ideals of economic justice, environmental sustainability, and supporting businesses owned by women and people of color. So one of the things I think about depressed parts of this country and low-income communities is they've been starved for capital. Banks have deliberately avoided lending money in those places, and our bank has made a practice of specifically lending money in those places and measuring the impact of every loan on the community. So when I think about what we're going to do, we're going to bring money and capital to those communities to support people in those communities. So we're not just pushing for living wages so one job is enough. We're not just undoing the tax cuts for rich people and corporations. We're also trying to put new and different people in charge of the economy, in addition to making sure that working people are treated equitably.
Yeah, you know, also, would you be thinking about some of the startup and innovative communities or people that are in those communities who are not getting a fair chance at any type of quality or equitable financing for them?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about, James. And we are going to enable that through the kind of financing that our bank has done now for well over a decade. For years before anybody ever thought about me running for president, we knew this kind of economic justice was something that had to be pursued in our society, and we were trying to show how to do it. We started with no money. We're up well over $1 billion, and it's a nonprofit bank. But James, they're about to grab my tie and pull me off this set. I apologize. They're rude people, James.
Tom Steyer, thank you so much for joining us on Morning Blend. It's been a pleasure.
It's such a pleasure. It's great to hear your voice.